After spending the weekend playing the Concord beta, it is safe to say that many people have misread what Concord is. I've seen a lot of people compare this game to Overwatch, and as someone who has over 1,300 hours playing Overwatch, I can tell you this game is nothing like Overwatch. The only similarities that this game has to Overwatch is that it contains heroes. Much in the same way that Valorant contains heroes, but Valorant is nothing like Overwatch. Concord is also nothing like Overwatch. In the most easiest way to compare this game, the most accurate comparable would be Destiny's PvP with heroes. That would be the most accurate way. As anyone who's played Destiny's PvP, you would get the sense of the similarities between this and Destiny's PvP. Keeping in mind that Concord is also being developed by former Bungie developers, which would also show why the game has such similarities to Destiny itself. That being said, it is also very much misunderstood, and the game itself is an acquired taste. You see, I'm guilty just like everybody else, where my first 1 to 3 matches that I played of this game, I did not enjoy it. I thought, this is not it. This may not be for me. The whole 9 yards. And part of that is the fact that the beta did not feature a proper tutorial. There was a how to play section where you could read how to play the game, but we all know how us players are. We skip that section and hit play right away. So for many people, they will play this, try 1 to 3 matches and be like, it's crap, time to kill's too long, movement's too slow, etc., all the things that you've heard. But for me, I felt as if that basing my opinion off 3 matches or less would have been an uninformed opinion, especially since the competitive game modes as well as the crew builder were tied to level 6. So you had to progress to level 6 to order to see those things. So for me to have an informed opinion, I decided to grind and get to that level. It didn't take me that long, about an hour or so, to be able to get to that level and then see what these things have to offer. It was only then I was able to learn the ins and outs and realize, hey, you know what? Concord is a really, really good game. And it's just many people are just blinded by either the generic look of the game, which is a fair complaint, or the fact that they heard hero shooter and immediately tuned out without actually giving the game its time to educate you. Once you learn certain things about the game, you realize how much better the game is. So I said that this is an acquired taste. First and foremost, this game has 16 heroes to choose from. It is important to note that across 16 heroes, you have 6 different classes, and that it is imperative that in order for you to get true enjoyment in this game, you have to find a character that fits your playstyle. Let me give you an example. If you're the type of person that likes to go on flanking routes, you like to do solo things, you can't pick a character that doesn't fit that. You can't pick one-off. You can't pick Jabali. You can't pick half the roster because those characters are not designed to go on solo flanks. If you want to go on solo flanks, you got to pick a character like Itzy, a high mobility character that can teleport around the map. And you have to pick that way. If you can't pick that character because someone else picked it before you, and you pick a different character and you say, I'm going to do the same thing, you're not going to have a good time. It doesn't work that way. Every character has their strength, every character has their weakness, and you need to play with that. When I played Jabali, I would follow my anchor character around wherever they went. They went left, I went left. Why? Because Jabali has the ability to send out a healing orb to his teammates to heal them, and then it creates a healing aura that heals anyone within that aura. So I would go around, and then his weapon damage isn't that great. So because of this, you need to stick with your team when playing Jabali to get true value out of his kit. Whereas, like I said, Itzy is meant to go off by herself, do whatever she wants. So knowing your character and what the strength of the kit is, and understanding how to use it is imperative to having a good time. Again, The beta did not have a training range or anything like that, so you only had the ability to read the character's kit and then be like, okay, I think this is for me. And the first few matches, like I said, I didn't understand it. I didn't think the game was good. It was only as I played and I discovered which characters I like to use that fit my style. And once I discovered those characters and started playing those characters, I had a much better time. The other thing that really, really helped is when you go through the crew builder and you make your crew, you learn something very, very imperative to your success in the game. This game, Concord, incentivizes hero swapping while simultaneously de-incentivizes one-tricking one character. So if you're playing the game modes Team Deathmatch or Trophy Hunt, which is basically kill confirmed, it doesn't matter. Those game modes have respawns. You could do whatever you like. It's a casual playlist meant for fun. But when you're playing competitively, you really, really have to diversify your lineup. Because when you play on the competitive game modes, if you win the round, that character you were using, you can no longer use for the rest of that match. So in my case, my favorite character was Hamar. If we win one round and I'm playing Hamar, for the rest of that game in the competitive modes where there's no respawns, I cannot use Hamar when I win. If you lose the round, I can reselect her for the following round. Essentially, this setup prevents players from identifying their mains and then just dominating the entire match through. Because as soon as you win that one round, you have to switch off that character to another character. One of your teammates can pick the same character as you, but you can't pick that character anymore. That's how those modes work. And this is all combined and embedded with the crew builder. I said at the beginning that there was 6 classes for across 16 characters. Each class has their own unique passive. For example, Hamar, who is a warden, her passive is weapon damage range increase. Now, the way the game works is if I pick Hamar first, and then I swap to, for example, a ranger class, that ranger will get both passive buffs. The buff for the warden, which is the range, and the ranger's buff, which is weapon recoil. Then if I pick a haunt character, their buff is increased mobility. So all these passives, up to 6, stack one after the other, so long as you play the role once in a given match. This does apply to the casual play modes, but again, because those are respawn modes, it doesn't really matter as much. But when you're playing the non-respawn modes, this makes a massive difference. So I said Hamar was my favorite character. I got into the routine of starting every match with a technician whose their buff is increased reload speed. Then I would switch to Haunt to gain the buff of increased mobility, and then I would switch to Hamar. So when I'm playing Hamar, she would have 3 buffs. Her buff of increased damage range, the Haunt buff of increased mobility, and the Technician buff of increased weapon reload speed. This is very important because Hamar only has a crossbow bolt for a weapon, and it's a one-shot reload. So having that quick reload speed is greatly appreciated. Having the mobility to get increased around the map, also huge considering that she can float around the map virtually endlessly. You put these buffs on her, all of a sudden she becomes significantly better to play and more fun to play and more lethal. This is how the game works. But because the beta didn't have a proper tutorial, a lot of players didn't know this. A lot of players were unaware. And not only do they not know which characters to play for their playstyle, they also don't realize that if you swap your characters, you actually get stronger provided they're under different roles. So and all of this ties right into the crew builder with how you set up your crew and how you organize it. I set it up my way as to fit the way, so I could just go from left to right, one after the other, boom, 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 and away I went. So these are things that I feel like people did not understand about the game, and they were quick to dismiss it after barely even scratching the surface of what the game has to offer. As for the competitive modes that we had access to for beta weekend 1, we had Cargo Run, which is basically a bomb is in the middle of the site, of the map, and then there's two bomb sites. Both teams must fight for the bomb to pick it up and then plant it on one of the sites. This game mode, in my opinion, didn't work the greatest, mainly because both teams rush to the middle and it basically becomes team deathmatch. And with no respawns, I've had matches end quickly. You kind of have to slow play it because with no respawns, you don't want to put your team at a disadvantage. But I wasn't a fan of this mode. When it comes to bomb defusal type game modes, I'm in the camp that you really should have attacker or defender scenario, kind of like Valorant, where one team has the bomb and the other team has to defend. So to me, I wasn't very, very keen on this mode. The other mode that we have was, I forget what it was called, but it was basically King of the Hill or Control from Overwatch. It was basically there's an objective marker in the center of the map. Both teams have to fight for it. You have to claim it and then hold it for X amount of time to win the round. This, again, similar to Control of Overwatch, that was basically this mode, except there's no respawns. So these are all things that the game has a lot of strategy, a lot of things to work around it. So when I was playing, especially the competitive modes with my buddies, I would pick a healer, they would pick an anchor. And then if we won the round, then I would pick the anchor, then they would pick the healer. Again, when you play no respawn modes, upon winning a round, you cannot play that character that you play to win the round. You must switch characters. This system, to me, I really enjoyed it, as games like Overwatch, games like Valorant, they don't deter from one-tricking. They actually reward one-tricking. And essentially, you oftentimes get toxic matches where, one set character just isn't working for the match. And especially in Overwatch's case, you don't want to switch. Anyone who's played Overwatch has probably had those days where you had a Genji on your team playing into Roadhog, Mei, Brigitte, etc., and just getting stunned to death. And they refuse to switch because they love Genji, right? And it creates a toxic environment for the players. This game doesn't do that because of the way those modes play out. But furthermore, it also doesn't do that because unlike games like Overwatch, there is no real hard counters in Concord. So if you do decide to one-trick a character in the casual playlist, it really doesn't matter. There's nothing really going to stop you from playing your character. Just know that when you go to the competitive modes, you can't do that. Of course, Concord is also supposed to be a live service, so you could expect the traditional battle passes. While the beta did not have a battle pass for us to see, you did have the daily challenges, weekly challenges, and yeah, it does feature a traditional progression where you have an account level that levels up and you unlock cosmetic rewards as you level up. So it's there. So I thoroughly enjoyed my time with the Concord beta, but the Concord beta did have some issues that are fixable but needed to be addressed. First and foremost, it is well known that on PC there was crashes for some players. I personally didn't experience a crash, but I know that their crashing was an issue. The other is quality of life. So one of the complaints I have about Concord the beta was, regardless of what game mode you played, what match you played, after the match it doesn't auto queue. It takes you back to the main lobby, and then you have to re-queue again. I don't know why I can't just click the casual playlist, finish a match, and oh look, auto queue button. Click the button and instantly queue back in. No, it takes me back to the main menu and I have to do that. That was quite annoying. Another quality of life change was the lack of backfilling. Anytime a player was disconnected or left or what have you, regardless of the game mode, the beta did not backfill. No other player would come into the match, and I've been in matches where within 60 seconds, 3 members of one team left. And that match is basically a wash because it wouldn't backfill at all. So these two quality of life changes was something that I noticed, and I really hope they address sooner rather than later because that it was quite annoying for the user experience. The other issue that I have, and I think everybody's touched on this time and time again, is the $40 box price. With so many games existing that are free to play, it is very, very difficult for consumers to justify paying $40 for an online PvP shooter only. I do know for some people that after they played the beta, they got interested and then they ended up pre-ordering the game for themselves. But it is clearly that this has been an obstacle for the game, and this will be a huge obstacle for its longevity. We all know that if people are going to commit their time and efforts into a live service game, they want to know long term, is it going to be around? Is it worth my time investment as well as financial commitment, considering the box price? It is the biggest obstacle for Concord, and some players, once they were able to try it, some players did end up buying the game for themselves, while others dismissed it. So I feel like not having the game be free to play is a huge obstacle for it. There is an open beta next weekend. We'll see how the PC community really reacts to it, because the first weekend they capped out at about 1,000 players. That's not a good look, but the PC community only got access to the beta had they pre-ordered the game. Next weekend they get the open, so we'll see how they react. Meanwhile, on PlayStation, the game was very much alive. Like, I found matches in literally less than 5 seconds, and that was because Sony made the early access beta available to any PS Plus members, which is basically anyone that would be interested in the game, because you need that to play online to begin with. So on PlayStation, most of my lobbies, I would find maybe 1 or 2 PC players, and then the rest were PlayStation players, and I found matches in seconds. So hopefully the open beta does convince the PC community, some of them, to jump in, but we'll have to wait and see for that one. So the $40 box price is the big elephant in the room here, which is unfortunate because Concord, as a video game, it's, from what I've played, it's a damn good game. It's fun. I have a blast playing it. I've seen people post their hours and how many hours they've played the game, and I've played the game myself easily 15 to 20 hours. I was having a blast. Right? Some people might complain that, they weren't interested because of the generic look. Yes, there is a generic look to it, but artistically speaking, it is generic. But from a technological standpoint, this game visually looked amazing. It looked really, really good. Audio was really good. The gunplay was really good. Again, these are former Bungie developers, the same developers, Destiny, for all the criticism that game has, but being a grind fest and, milking assets, yada, 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 the game always played well, and Concord plays well. So overall, that is also the biggest hurdle I see for the beta for the game is that $40 box price. The last thing I will touch on before closing out is we do get weekly vignettes. That's something that they said for long term. Weekly vignettes will get to flesh out the story and its characters. So I'm really curious to see how they keep that up long term, and how players who maybe not jump in right away, jump in a little bit later, how will they be able to view the previous vignettes to get caught up. But it's something that I think is neat, and I wish games like Overwatch with their characters did something like this, where you got a little cutscene every week to move the story forward. But we'll see how that plays out. Overall, I feel like Concord has a lot of potential. I think if you take the time and actually try it, not just play 1 to 3 matches, actually spend a couple hours with it and try to learn the systems, find your character, understand the systems, there's a good chance you might enjoy this game, especially if you enjoy Destiny PvP or you enjoy hero shooters. This game is not for Twitch shooter fans. If you are a fan of Call of Duty, that fast-paced Twitch shooter action, that's not here, and you may not be taken by this game no matter what, because it's just not for you. As I said, the big elephant in the room is that $40 price point, but we'll see how that plays out long term. Overall, I will be making a video on the second weekend of the Concord beta, because they are giving us a new map and a new game mode, and I'm curious to see how that plays out and how the PC community reacts to the open beta. This is Veteran Gamer, and I hope to see you guys next time.